What is up, everybody? It's Hypocrisy here today, and we have to talk about this post from David Jaffe. He is saying the same sentiments that I said before in the past. If you can remember, a few days ago, I dropped the complete utter hypocrisy of the game industry towards Redfall getting trashed while Zelda gets a pass. Pretty much talking about how Zelda will get a pass from the industry despite its flaws. Because as we can see, David Jaffe is having the same sentiment that hey, this game doesn't look too great, but it's getting nines and tens. It's getting called a masterpiece. It's getting perfect scores, but the game visually is not too impressive. But this is what he stated. That got like people angry about this statement. He says, I don't give a crap about amazing production value plus visuals. I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, sure, I want the stuff to be up to date, but I'm not going to, like, not play the game if the visuals aren't that impressive. Like, I just played a game, Raven, like, on Game Pass, which is a fine game, a small indie game. But it's not that big of a deal. The graphics or frames per second is not that, like, up to par. As long as it's bearable, it's fine to me. But a lot of people took the stance where they can't play games at 30 frames per second. They got that harsh stance that if it's at 30, they won't play it. Or they got the harsh stance that it's not up to date visually, they won't play it. So those people who are backtracking with this new Zelda game, we see you and you're taking a major L. You're pretty much you're taking that L. You might as well put it on your chest like the Superman emblem at this point, because there's a lot of hypocrites concerning this frame rates and these visuals when it comes to the Zelda game. But he also says a great game is a great game. Just started and so far so good. But given how much everyone goes ape crap over visuals, it is staggering how this game can look like this and not get at least a little dinged by reviews, because the reviews so far are 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 scores across the board. And you look at the screenshot right here, this looks like a GameCube game. This doesn't look great. And you look at the rocks, the textures right here, this looks like soupy, blurry textures. But you know, Redfall got slammed by this by these type of visuals, from having lashing visuals people were saying. But Zelda gets the pass, and like we had one guy who tried to make the same defense, is that hey, you can't compare it because you compare Redfall on the Xbox Series X to a handheld console. Who fault is that? The Nintendo is releasing games, brand new games, on some old hardware. Like, why have they released a new Switch already? Like, is it my problem as a consumer they haven't released new hardware? But this is the post that this one guy said trying to defend Zelda, but he wouldn't share the same sentiment towards a game like Redfall. A quick way to find people who lack intellectual depth. They think Zelda Tears of the Kingdom at 30 frames per second is the same as next-gen games running at 30. He's obviously talking about Redfall. A false equivalency is an informal fallacy and a sure way to see that someone doesn't know what they're talking about. You can say all this extra spicy stuff at the end, but at the same time, you can say it's not a next-gen console, so why should we compare it to current gen? But Nintendo is charging you a full $70 for this game. They're not charging you handheld console prices. People want to say it's like handheld or it's like running on inferior technology or whatever. They're charging you that current gen console price of $70. And you got videos like this where people are going to the midnight launches. Let me turn the volume down. They're going to the midnight launches to pick up this game at midnight. And you know what Nintendo sees when they see people like this who are super happy, he got all dressed up with, got his own fake Master Sword? They are rubbing their hands together. They're rubbing their hands together like this, because we got a lot of suckers who will pay $70 for this game that looks like this and will trash the competition's games who look the same and just praise this one. They know they got some suckers, because this game is $70. And that's just for the cheapest version, and the collector's edition costs for like $100+. So it's complete hypocrisy. I predicted this a few days ago. This was gonna happen. The industry gives this game a pass when the visuals aren't up to par, the performance isn't up to par with current stuff, but they charge you that full current gen price. Fascinating. The industry to gives this game a pass, but. As I pretty much expected, because we've seen how the Pokemon games have been going. Like, Nintendo is strictly driven off nostalgia at this point, because the Pokemon games release at a full 60. Each time they get a new release, the games don't perform well, but they sell like a ridiculous amount of copies. I think the last game price was like 30 or 40 million at this point. This game is probably gonna do like 40 or 50 million. This new Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And people don't care because they played these games as kids. So that nostalgia is attached to them. They can't criticize a Zelda game. They can criticize Redfall because we didn't grow up with Redfall as a kid. But Zelda, you can't criticize that game because, like, I agree with this point. How are no points taken off? We just seen points. Redfall was slammed by the media. We saw points taken off drastically, but no points taken off for the Zelda game. I wonder why. And people like this are defending the nonsense too. Just funny, but this is not a hate on this game because I'm probably gonna pick it up this after work this evening. So I might pick it up or I might just wait. I'm not sure yet, but because I just have to see. I just gotta experience this masterpiece. I gotta experience a game that's getting 10 out of 10s across the board because I gotta see what that's about. So I don't know. I'm still undetermined if I'm gonna buy the game after work. I might just wait to pick this up. So well, let's see what people have to say about David Jaffe's tweet. Gameplay goes a long way to assuage the eyes. It looks pretty horrific, especially after just bumping off Jedi Survivor, but fun is fun, I suppose. I mean, I had fun with Redfall, but they still said, hey, you need to stop. You need to... I had fun. A lot of people had fun with Redfall. They say, hey, Redfall is still trash. Just fascinating how that works out. I really don't see the problem. It has color and a simple art style that serves the gameplay. It is also made for a console which is a calculator, is he trying to say? Compared to current gen consoles, expectations aren't as high. Okay. So I guess Microsoft should just make handheld consoles, and at this point, I mean, if we're not gonna take points off. All Microsoft do the same thing and make handhelds. I don't know. People always say PS2 graphics as a meme, but holy crap, this actually looks like PS2 graphics. Okami had much nicer art style again on PS2 in 2006. Yeah. Gameplay must be so good that it outweighs this. Gameplay is king always. Also, a great art style will hold up for years, decades even. That's why Nintendo games are regarded as timeless classics as much as an 8 and 16-bit era. That's not even the only problem with Nintendo games is the visuals. I mean, it's not that. I mean, that's a problem, but that's not the biggest deal. The fact that these games don't got voice acting like that, like sure they have more voice acting in the Breath of the Wild than the previous Zelda games, but why is we in 2023 and the games don't got voice acting like that? Like the Mario movie was a hit. You've seen that they gave Mario a voice and Luigi a voice, the different characters a voice. Why don't they give these characters voices now? It's like we're not in the 16 and 8-bit era anymore, Nintendo. Give these characters voices. That's the other major problem I got with these games too. Like the games don't got voice acting. It's just weird. So you got to read everything you're looking at on the screen. It's just really annoying. So that's another big complaint that the industry just doesn't care about. Apparently, like nobody cares about that. That it still deserves these 10 out of 10 scores. Now, to be frank, I think this game deserves a 10 out of 10 out of 10. Nope. I think it's more like a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 at most. But because of Nintendo and they're going to ignore the visuals and the performance issues, they're going to bump it up 2 scores because of nostalgia reasons. I think it's going to be overblown. But I think the honest score for this game is probably a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, to be honest. I can't say confirmed. I can't say for sure because I haven't played the game. But to be honest, when these Nintendo games get scored super highly, I always take 2 points off what the Metacritic score is, to be honest. So if the Metacritic is like an 8 out of 10, I'd say the real score is probably like a 6 out of 10, to be honest. So this is getting 10 out of 10 scores. This is probably like a 7 or 8, to be honest. Because there's no way you're releasing games, especially like that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which was just unplayable or just glitchy and buggy. People say that it was being corrupted. The Pokemon were falling off the map. It was a complete mess, but that game still would score highly and it sold a lot of copies. So Nintendo definitely gets a pass because hypocrisy and double standards are alive and well. Yes, they are. Simple. It's on Nintendo, so it gets a pass. This will get rinsed on other modern hardware. Yes, we've seen so far with the Xbox where they released Redfall. Redfall could not get a pass, even though people were saying, "Hey, people were having fun with the game," but nope. It just said, "Hey, people putting the headlines the worst game ever of 2023." When it's like, that is far from true. Like Redfall is not the worst game of this year. Like you can't tell me that game was the worst game of this year. But Nintendo fans see no evil, hear no evil. For some reason, people think they should compete with themselves, which I feel allows them to stay behind the curve, which is right where they want you. Nintendo nostalgia. The game is a technical masterpiece. Okay, this dude is obviously I hope he's being sarcastic. He says a technical masterpiece, like really. Uh, because it's on the Switch, performance-wise, it's not better than PS4/Xbox One. Nintendo needs to bring out their current gen console, or this kind of anomaly will always come up. And I think console wars didn't affect Nintendo as much as Sony and Microsoft games. Yeah, because nobody's talking about the visuals at all. Very rarely people talk about the visuals about these games. When they are very critical about the visuals on an Xbox or PS5 game, which is very interesting. Okay, this guy just takes a low shot right here. Guy who thought this was a good idea for a game think he has a valid opinion on aesthetics. So apparently this was that game that David Jaffe did that didn't do too well by the media, didn't do too well overall, and it didn't. And so he's bringing this up as a shot against Jaffe when it's like everybody has hits and misses. It's like everybody doesn't have home runs all the time. So now, I'm not even trying to defend David Jaffe because he was the one saying Phil Spencer needs to go. So I'm not technically trying to defend David Jaffe here, but he has a point with this whole thing right here. What do you mean? A game's visual should not be judged by the limitations of the hardware. If anything, that's a Nintendo fault, not The Legend of Zelda's. Jesus, that water texture is a crime. You know, they even focus on the water texture. Yeah, that looks horrible. Yeah, this whole screenshot just looks terrible. Like, this looks ridiculous. But you know, Redfall got shamed. Redfall got slammed. They might as well did the whole thing from Game of Thrones, the shame thing, the way they paraded Redfall around. It might have been a reenactment of their shame scene from Game of Thrones at this point, how they did Redfall. But yeah, I'm gonna conclude it right here. I gotta go soon. I gotta go to work soon, so I'm gonna conclude it right here. But yeah, Nintendo gets a pass. It's pretty obvious. The same people who are reviewing these games that grew up with the games as a kid, so they can't take the nostalgic goggles off, and they gave these games a higher score. It's pretty obvious at this point. People want to say, hey, you can't compare it to next-gen consoles. You can say that, but Nintendo is charging you these current-gen prices, so that defeats that argument. I can understand if they were charging you less of a price because of the hardware, but they charge you the same price as a current gen game. At least with Redfall, all the people say the game is bad. You can at least play it on Game Pass. So if you didn't like it, you can at least not invest too much into it. But with this game, you got to pay a full $70, and you're getting these visuals right here. So I'm gonna include it right here. Definitely want to see your thoughts down below. And once again, I'm not hating on the game. I'm probably gonna play the game this evening. I'm just pointing out a blatant hypocrisy in the industry that nobody talks about. How Nintendo pretty much gets a pass and people are okay with it, I guess. I don't know. But definitely want to see your thoughts down below. Leave a like for this video. It's always thanks for watching, and peace.